welcome to the Competitive 40k podcast, brought to you by Vanguard Tactics. This is the Warhammer 40k podcast where we help analyse the meta, develop strategies to help you become a better competitive Warhammer 40k player. I'm your host, Stephen Box, and it's my mission to raise the standard of the game both on and off the tabletop. So in this episode, myself and Mark are going to be covering all things LVO. If you haven't listened to episode 3, I'd recommend you go back and listen to that one where I cover the plan of the attack with the Blood Angels for the LVO, what I'm anticipating, what I'm worried about, what I'm excited for. And in this episode, I'm going to be covering how I got on at the LVO. So please do check out episode 3 if you haven't done so already. And if you're new to the podcast, please do subscribe. It really means a lot. And if you do have 5 minutes, please go and leave us a review on iTunes, ideally a written review. That would really help us reach more people. Now this episode is going to be a little bit longer than the usual, so there won't be a better the meta today, and unfortunately I won't have time to answer any questions. Now I will pick up those on next week's episode 5. Okay, so I will do a better the meta and answer your questions for them. If you do have a question for the podcast, all you need to do is head over to Instagram, which is the Vanguard Tactics, and private message us there. Alternatively, you can shoot us a message on Facebook and just search for Vanguard Tactics on Facebook. One final thing to know is if you would like to see my LVO Blood Angels list, then all you need to do is head over to www.vanguardtactics.com/blog/EP4. That is where you'll see all the show notes for today's episode, and you'll be able to download my list along with finding all the details about the up-and-coming competition that I'm going to, and you'll also be able to get a ticket if you're free that weekend. So I really hope you enjoy this episode with Mark and all things LVO, and over to the podcast now. Mark Reed, how you doing, mate?
All's well, my friend. Yourself?
I'm doing very, very well. Much better than last time we spoke. I was ill, so I'm doing much better.
I'm also less ill. So well done to us for being less ill.
Yeah, top progress there. So, Mark, on today's show, 40k in Focus, what are we going to be talking about?
I would love to hear all about your trip to the LVO.
Just that small little competition?
Something nothing, really. A small RTT.
Yeah.
See how he got on. I'm more interested about whether you went to the Heart Attack Grill on the strip or went to the shooting range, you know.
Well, I'll answer that now. I didn't go to the Heart Attack Grill.
That's a shame.
And I didn't do any shooting.
Also a shame. You didn't get spanked then by anybody in a nurse's uniform at the Heart Attack Grill?
Unfortunately not, no.
There's always next year.
Well, that's it, mate. We can only hope and dream. So LVO had a absolutely incredible time. Me and my girlfriend Amy went over, and we spent, I think, 8 days there before the event.
Cool.
So did all the kind of sightseeing stuff. Went down the strip, went to the Grand Canyon, met up with Brian, who I went over to SoCal with. We did some escape rooms, went out for food. Met up with the rest of the Vanguard Tactics team that were playing at the LVO, so all the guys that I've been coaching, and a huge shout out to them, so Zeka and Jacob, Brian, Tyler, Jared, Logan, Colton, Chuck and Lou, all did absolutely fantastic over the weekend, and I'm just so proud of every single one of them for what they achieved and how they got on, and it was just great to spend some time with those guys, along with absolutely everybody else. But yeah, big shout out to those guys.
I saw actually... no spoilers, but I saw Jared's result from the LVO, and Jared has been with us since the very beginning of offering coaching services for Vanguard Tactics, when we started out on Patreon for producing content, and I was so pleased with his results. So he ended up 4-2 with Ultramarines, and I was over the moon about his progress in the time that we've been working with him. So really pleased to see that.
Yeah, Jared first came to us and couldn't win a game, and that was only a year ago. Well, less than that actually. He's joined the mentorship program 9 months ago.
Yeah.
Back in, or probably 10 months ago, February, March, And, to now go to 1,000-person event and go 4-2 is absolutely incredible, with a list he's only been running for the last 3 months. So I was so pleased and so proud of him. So, all the hard work that he's been doing with me every week, studying on the mentorship program and on the prep program that I put together that he joined, I was immensely proud. So, top work to him.
Superb. So I've got I'd like you to go through something for me. So if anybody wants to go to the LVO next year,
yep,
then I'd love you to talk about, before you get to the games you played, who you played, and how they went. I'd love you to talk about the process. So it's a 1,000-man tournament now. That's just for a 40k as well, which is crazy. So do you have to go the night before? I saw some people on social media sort of queuing the night before. Can you rock up 10 minutes previous and go, hey, I'm just going to go to my table and I'm on BCP? How does it all work?
Okay, so I think tickets normally go on sale about 6 months prior, and they will tend to sell out extremely quickly. So I think if you're not buying your ticket in the first couple of hours, you're probably not going to get to go, or not going to get to guarantee it anyway. And you basically need an event pass, and you also need a ticket to the actual competition that you want to play in. Obviously, it's in Vegas, and this year it was held at the Bally's Casino, which is just a huge big casino, just like all the others, and they've got a huge conference centre out the back. So you buy your ticket 6 months ahead, and then I would recommend going out if you're from the UK, Australia, Europe, anything like that. I'd recommend going out a couple of days before, just so that you can adjust your body clock. Okay, there will be jet lag, and I think the first night I didn't really sleep. The next day I pretty much slept all day, and I would have hated to be in that situation, along with the temptation of alcohol if you're a drinker. Luckily I don't, so I wasn't ever hungover, and all the food and things. So a couple of days out before, get that out your system, and then you'll be ready to play in the tournament. So the tournament is on the Friday and the Saturday. Okay, you play 3 games per day. Now, if you are undefeated, you'll get to put into a shadow round, which is the 7th game, and that's on day 2 on the Saturday. And then you'll go through, if you won the shadow round, you'll make the top 8, which is on the Sunday. So I didn't make the top 8, spoilers, so I didn't play on the Sunday, so I did someone else instead with Amy, so that was great. But once you've registered for the event like any other, you'll then get added on BCP. You submit your list a couple of weeks ahead of time. All of your models had to have been based the same. They all have to be painted the same, and everything needs to be distinguished differently, okay? And if anything wasn't, so if you had different chapters, for example, they needed to be represented with different colour shoulder pads or different colour models, basically, okay? Any errors, and that was a yellow card. So if your list was late, if there was a formatting error on your list, if you had painting discrepancies, all of those things would have been a yellow card. That's about it, really. And then you just have to register. So they opened up registration on the Thursday evening, which was probably all those people queuing that you saw.
Thursday. Sorry, not Friday. Thursday, apologies.
Yeah, no, that's all right. So loads of people queued up on Thursday to register, get their wristbands and stuff for the event. And then, I did mine Friday morning. So it was a little bit of a shorter queue Friday morning. So I did that just before I played. Once you're in BCP, then and you registered, you got your event pass and everything at the casino, then all you need to do is go and find your table when you get paired, and then you're away.
Great. Then it's just like any other tournament.
Just like any other tournament, but much bigger.
Yeah, I think the biggest one I've been to myself was the London Grand Tournament, which was, I think, was 400.
Yeah, about 350, I think. So imagine one 3 times that size, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And guys, I just want to say as well, to every single person that came up to me, shook my hand, said hello, said they loved the podcast or the YouTube channel and love the work that we're doing, whether it's our content or, starting the conversation about sportsmanship and things like what I did before there. Honestly, everyone's words were so humbling, and I'm extremely grateful for absolutely everyone that came to say hello. Honestly, it was a dream come true for me, and I'll be honest, quite overwhelming. I was exhausted by the end of because I was there Thursday. I was exhausted Thursday just from talking to people, which was incredible. But that all day Friday and Saturday, it really took its toll on me actually. But honestly, it was so, like I said, overwhelming. And thank you to everybody that did come and say hello. It really meant a lot to me.
That's great. Now, let's get to the heart of it. What everybody is desperate to listen to is a good, hearty review of the games that you played, your opponents, and how you got on. So why don't you kick us off with game one?
So, as you know, guys, I'll keep this as real as I possibly can for you. I won't sugarcoat anything. So, game one, I drew against a Dark Angels player, and it was a Raven Wing list, and I waited at my table for 15 minutes. Okay, so at the event, you had a 10-minute grace period, okay, and then the round started, and you had an hour and 25 minutes each. So you get 10 minutes to start to set up your deployment, set up the tables, go over, pick your secondaries, all that kind of stuff, go over your listing bits and bobs, and then the clock started, okay. Now, game one, you had I was at my table 20 minutes before that 10 minutes started, okay, so I had plenty of time. And I waited there for 15-20 minutes, and I didn't actually have an opponent. So I then had to go over to the table, the ref's table, and I redrew against somebody else because my opponent didn't show, which I found really strange because they obviously registered for the event. They bought a ticket, and they had to register because you can only register if you're within 500 meters of the venue. So we went over to my table, and within that first 10 minutes, we just kind of quickly meeting my new opponent, quickly having a look at his list. Now, something really unfortunate happened here for me, and I'm going to be completely real and transparent about this event. And essentially, we went over the deployment, the map, the terrain and things, and my list, and he picked his secondaries. But unfortunately, before I had chance to ask him questions about his list and pick my secondaries, the clock had already started. So I was down about 10 minutes even before the game began, or about, between 5 and 10 minutes before the game started, which was a little bit frustrating for me. But, obviously you don't want to rush that kind of thing anyway. You want to make sure you pick the right secondaries. And in this game, myself and my opponent, I was playing against a Drakari player. We're having a nice, game back and forth, and I was helping him move his models. He, I don't know if it had like nerve damage in his hand, but was struggling a little bit to move the models around. So I did a lot for him in terms of moving in and out of terrain and things, and moving his models, piling into combat with me, and all that kind of stuff. Now it got to a point where the game was extremely close. I was up on points, but I didn't really have much time left because the way that his army structured is extremely just took ages to get through with grotesques and talos and loads of witches and venoms. So it's kind of like just taking, although I was playing as fast as I could, lots and lots of rolling. And
were you using a clock?
We were, yeah.
Yeah, got you.
So I was down on time, and it got to the end of turn 3, and I had basically a couple of minutes left, which isn't great, obviously. And in fairness, I probably could have played quicker in areas, but I was playing at a pretty decent speed. I wouldn't say I was playing necessarily slow. And unfortunately, we like I said, we had some nice back and forths and things, but my opponent kind of clocked, and this is the impression I got, basically clocked that I didn't have much time left. And I got the impression was trying to run my clock out so I'd clock out. And it left a bit of a bad feeling in my mouth, to be honest, because as I said, I was helping him out. Like, he asked me a few of my rules, and I got my codex out to show him like what the things were, just to basically say, look, this is what this does. Here's the rule book for it, which takes time. And I probably should have been more adamant on the clock and just hit it over to him straight away. Okay, I probably could have been more fierce on the clock, so to speak. But I don't play like that. I'm kind of, I said to him at the start, look, I just want the best general to win here. That's it. I want the best general to win, and that's how I like to play my games. The chess clock for me is more of a guide, as again, I don't want my opponent to be And I'm going to do a full video on this in a bit more detail, but I don't want my opponent to feel like the clock made them lose or win the game, and same for me. And essentially, there was a couple of moments where, when you're playing and there's kind of like a code of conduct between you, right? If you know that your opponent doesn't have much time left, and you know that they easily achieve something, you just pick up your models, don't you?
Sure, yeah.
You just don't worry about rolling it, mate. I'll just pick that up. So I'll give you an example. 2 Sanguinary Guard. So I got a squad of 8. 2 of my Sanguinary Guard. They've got different weapons, so I have to do it separately. Took 10 of 12 wounds off the Raider. Okay. I then went to swing with the other 6 to take off the last 2 wounds. And I was looking at him and I said, "Are you going to make me roll it?" And he said, "Yeah." And then there was another point in the game where I let him put down witches or cabalites, whatever they were, on the table, which he forgot to earlier on when a venom exploded. And then I said, right, I'm going to put 36 assault shots, -1 damage shots from the Sanguinary Guard into that unit of 4 cabalites. Are you going to pick them up? And he was like, no. And I was like, right, okay. So I was getting a little bit, I was already down on time anyway. I was getting a little bit hacked off, to be honest. But the thing is, it got to a point where I didn't have any time left. And, I'll give an example later on. I played somebody and the clock was on me. It was on my opponent and it should have been on me.
Right.
And we had a discussion and they said, look, don't worry, you can have a bit of my time. And I had it vice versa. I gave somebody some of my time because you want to make sure it's fair, don't you?
Yeah.
And so I was a bit annoyed that didn't happen. But something really interesting came up. So I was ahead at the end of turn 3, and by a few points. And then my opponent clocked me out, and I said, "Look, can I strike back and do something?" He said, "No, you're clocked out." I said, "Right, okay." He carried on playing his turns, and he won by 1 point. He got like a mark for death, a kill more for a couple of turns. Now, in the rules pack, you cannot play a new battle round if neither of you have a total of 10 minutes left on the clock. And he didn't. He only had 8. So I could have, at that point, said, sorry, if you've clocked me out, then I'm going to essentially pull the game to a close now because you've only got 8 minutes left. For there to be a new round, we both combined need 10 minutes. And therefore, the game ends. But morally, it doesn't sit well with me. So I was sat there, although I was quite hacked off and quite annoyed about some of his conduct towards the end, I was sat there in a bit of a moral dilemma thinking, I don't really want it to go down like this. Because technically I win the game. Because if it had stopped, we'd have both got a hold for the remaining turns and that would have been it, and I probably would have won by a couple of points. But I didn't want my first game of the LVO to go down that way. It's not really what I'm all about. It's not the way I like to play. So I just said, look, that's it. That's the game. You win by a point. Shook his hand and kind of got on with it. And just put it down to a, let's just try and be more diligent later on, shall we say. So yeah, that was game 1. Not the best.
Okay, let's get into this before we move on. Would you like my opinion?
Go on.
You're too soft.
Yeah, I could have definitely done that. Is just said, look, if that's the way you want to play it, then 2 can play at that game, so to speak.
So you're a very sporting individual, and you've got better as the years have gone on, which is a credit to you, not a slight on you in any way. You are good to play against. In that respect, very fair. And also, like, we've had games where you've been practicing for the LVO and you've said, like, I'm going to remove terrain, like you talked about in the last episode, things like this. You're trying to make life difficult for yourself. And I think that's admirable. If you were in a situation where you were helping somebody out a lot and you were doing the best for them you possibly could, and then they turned around and went, I'm going to run the clock down on you, I wouldn't have had any of that whatsoever. If you got the feeling that was occurring, then I would have thought that was occurring, because you're an astute gentleman. You know what I mean? Like you've played a lot of games of Warhammer. You know when people are slowing down a little.
Hmm.
And also, what you need to understand, if you're that person, is look, I'm in like I'm in the top end playing a good player, who's high up. You know, am I really going to progress with this army to 6-0? Maybe you thought it was, but he took it, sounded like really competitively, and played every advantage possible towards the end of the game. And then you let him off the hook because he did that. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised by it because that's the way you are. But I wouldn't have done it, and I wonder what other people thinking would have done.
The thing is, it's not like at the time he did anything wrong, if that makes sense. Like, nothing that he did was against the rules of the game. Yeah, like, yes, he should make me roll out all of my dice technically. Does that make sense? Because there is a possibility when 36 Sanguinary Guard shoot, they all roll ones, and they all re-roll ones into another ones, and another one wound, and he makes all his saves. That's possible.
What's the AP of a Sanguinary Guard?
Oh, -1.
So he's on 6-ups.
6-up saves, yeah.
So he's got to make 36 6-ups.
Yeah, I've got a hit and wound, but yeah. But
okay, so you hit on 3s, re-rolling.
Yeah, hit on 3s, re-rolling, but they die. Like, it's a miracle would have happened for them to not die. But the point is, it's not like there was anything that he did which was cheating. It was just slightly unsportsmanlike conduct. Now, I didn't get the vibe that it was intentional. It came from a more, I think, of a place of, like he said to me at the end, oh, that was the first time I've used a clock. And I was like, right, okay. Now, I don't know if it was just sheer dumb luck that happened the way that it fell. Now, also, Mark, I'm quite I'll take that on the chin. And I could have just been like, look, mate, you ain't got 10 minutes left, so you ain't having another turn. And to be honest, at the time, I was more annoyed about the fact of I've been helping the guy out and all that kind of stuff anyway. But the thing is, and kind of further to my point, is that I should have played quicker. And I did make a mistake at the start of the game in deployment. I deployed my death company incorrectly. And if I would have just not done that, I would have won the game easily because I've had another unit at my disposal. So it's not like I played a flawless game. And I'm sat there thinking, well, I did make a mistake. Although technically I still should have won the game. It's kind of by the by. I still made mistakes, and I could have played faster. I could have picked my secondaries quicker. Or what I should have done is gone up to the referees at the start and said, look, we're going to be starting a little bit late. I want a little bit more time at the end. Because I've had a redrawn game. Can we make sure that, we get a bit more extra time? Or for me to say at the start with my opponent, look, this is eating into my time. Can we share it? But I didn't, because I thought, this won't be a problem. I'll make sure I play quick enough, and I didn't. So maybe there was slight arrogance on my part. I don't know. That I just thought, we'll be fine. So, and it wasn't the impression I got from my opponent that he was going to game me in any way. And I don't really think it was intentional. I think he saw a slight opportunity towards the end. And we did a few go backs in terms of he wanted to do something. Like I said, put those cab lights down. I wanted to heroically intervene into a different unit, whatever. And it was all okay. But there did come a point at the end where I said, look, do you mind if I just do this? And he said, no, not now. And I was a bit like, okay, right. So now that you think it matters, that changes your behaviour. Now that for me doesn't wash, because I am somebody that if I'm going to let somebody have a go backs or do something different, my opinion remains the same, whether or not it loses or draws me that match, because my opinion is solid. And that is, if there's nothing I can do to change that result, and also there's no dice have been rolled to determine the effect of anything in between those two decisions, then I do not care. regardless of whether it win or loses me my match. So let's say you want to swap a litany. So you roll the dice and you go, right, I'm going to roll, I don't know, misses, re-roll hits with the litany for the chaplain. You roll, it goes off. And then he just moves a unit. Let's say they're going first. He moves a unit and you go, while he's doing it, you go, actually, I'm just going to go for exploding 6 if that's all right. It makes no difference. Yeah, it makes absolutely no difference. And the thing is, when you're playing top tier players, they also tend not to care, because they're like, yeah, man, sure, don't worry about it. Yeah, I was wondering why you picked that anyway. Yeah, cool. Of course you would do that. That is typically the mentality of top tier players. Now, that for me, it's just a slightly difference on opinion. Obviously, a go backs or whatever is at your discretion anyway. If you want to let your opponent have something like that, I'm very willing to, providing that I feel like my opponent isn't going to try and game me, that they play with the same integrity that I play the game at. But anyway, yeah, lesson learned, Mark?
I understand what you're saying. You've taken the route of ownership, extreme ownership, and I think that's really good. I understand you saying, okay, I'm going to take that one on the chin. It's my fault. I own that. I won't make this mistake again. It'll burn inside me for a while. And I could tell by the message you sent, you were bitterly unhappy that it had occurred.
Yeah.
So good for you. That's the real adult way of dealing with it, and I applaud you for it. I don't think I would have done the same. I would have said, look, yeah, you haven't got enough time to take another round. The game's, let's math it out or whatever. I win.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have gone, I win, like an idiot,
Yeah.
I don't, only if I'd have won, because if somebody starts to do that against me, and like you say, the tide turns for them to be a bit bitter and a bit nasty, then I'll not say I'll be nasty back, but I'm going to give them the respect that they've now earned.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
and also, I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here, but you went a long way and spent a lot of money.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
You took 2 of you, and you were aiming to win the LVO. And you were unfortunate because the Dark Angels player didn't turn up. And probably you would have... It's unlikely, unless he was amazing Dark Angels player, that he would have beat you, I'll be honest with you. It's a bit of a fluffy list, Dark Angels, at the minute.
Or even if I was drew against the same opponent, but had that 20 minutes to kick things off appropriately, to not rush through things, to set up the table correctly and all that kind of stuff. That would have been a big difference. So yeah, certainly the time crunch was annoying, but yeah, you're right, Mark. To be honest, after this experience, I've learned from it, and I don't think I'll make that same mistake again. If I feel like someone's trying to, the counter argument in the reason why I didn't want to just win the game in this instant was because I feel like 10 minutes total time is too long. I personally don't agree with that ruling.
Okay.
Now, there's a couple of rulings that I don't agree with, and obviously a TO can, if it was called against me, fine or whatever, but I feel like there's often been times when I've played and in other events where I've been able to do my 6th turn in a minute, where I just need to move to an objective, cool, that's done. I feel like you should be able to play your clock out until the very last minute. That is my personal opinion. And that is the ruling in which I would prefer it to have been played, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it's just extremely annoying to know that I'm hoping that karma will come round one day and, somebody will be like, no, Steve, please use up the rest of your 10 minutes. I agree, like, you need it. Do you know, and you should have it. If the tables were turned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Because I feel like a lot can be done in 10 minutes. You could easily play turns 5 and 6 in 10 minutes because not much happens in those turns anyway. You shoot something, you move somewhere, and you call it a turn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it was 5 minutes total, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's fair and reasonable. That just gives you 5 minutes to collect the scores, pack up, and, get on with your life. But for me, that 10 minutes just morally doesn't sit well with me. So yeah, that there's that other part of the argument as well. And I think You've got to let your moral compass, haven't you, guide you in terms of how you can conduct yourself and play the game, because we are playing a subjective game.
Yeah, and I think this is worth getting into. I think this is a interesting point to discuss, and I'm interested to see, to hear from anybody listening what they would have done in that situation.
Yeah.
And how they would have dealt with it, whether they would have given the guy the benefit of the doubt, whether they'd have taken it on the chin like you did and gone, okay, I'm going to learn from this hurts, I'm not happy about it, but I'll deal with it, or whether they would have done what I said I would have done, which is go, rules are rules, mate.
Yeah.
You've turned on me a little, and I don't like it, so I'm going to play to the rules, and then that's it.
And I did have a very frank conversation with him at the end. I said, look, thanks for the game, but I was unhappy with the following. In just to say, look, this is kind of my feelings. I'm going to tell you to your face. And, because I know I've got like an audience in which, listen. So I'm always going to be, blunt with people and sort of say, this is exactly, how I'm feeling anyway. But I think it's actually drawn a really good conversation. I think this podcast has been some good stuff here, because you are not wrong. In fact, you are actually technically correct in what you're saying. The way that you would have played it out, Mark, is technically the best way to play it. And to be honest, I'll probably do that in the future if that's the way it's going to go. So
I'll be honest with you though, if the guy had been a gentleman, if you described him as being a gentleman to the end, going, yeah, I'll take them off, no problem, then I wouldn't have done it. I'd have gone, play your turns out. Those are the forget it. I haven't used my time effectively.
And he's been more than sort of considerate, so to speak.
Yeah. And also like the I think I'm a bit militant. Okay, I'll put that out there. The where takebacks are concerned, there's two sides of the spectrum. I'm one side and Jack's the other. So Jack's incredibly liberal and like a hippie, and I'm very conservative where takebacks are concerned.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't allow anybody to take back unless it's in a private game, and it's we're testing lists or whatever, where the game has changed. It's where basically you would have had a different set of targets to aim at, possibly, be it a psychic phase or movement or whatever. And people that say, but I meant to put that there. Well, did you say you did? Because if you told me that was your intent when you were playing the game, because I try and play off intent, I try and say to people and narrate through the game, right, I'm doing this, and he's within 3 of this objective. If you'd have said to me, he's within 3 and he was actually 4, I'd have gone, move him over. You told me it was in 3. It's no problem at all. Yes. But if it was 4 and you just weren't paying attention, or you measured it, you didn't quite get there, and then you tried to cheat me the next turn. I'm not saying Jack does this by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever. I think the world of Jack. He's a great player. But I wouldn't be having any of it. I'd be saying, no, you're out and that's it. And I don't mind having that conflict. I don't mind saying no to somebody.
Yeah. And to be honest, normally I'm very much like you. If you declare your intent, that's what it is. There was a point in SoCal, I know we're getting off the topic here, but my opponent didn't declare their intent. Something happened. I did a move where I can move away from a unit because it's the closest now, and I can move away from a character being able to strike. He said to me, it was my intent to base you. And I said, you didn't verbalise that to me. And I don't know if it is or not, because you may only just be saying that now because I've been able to do this, and you might not have known that I was able to actually do that. I'm not a mind reader. I don't know your knowledge of the game, because otherwise what I'm doing is I'm actually coaching you and letting you off to the fact that your knowledge isn't like mine. And we're playing a game here. You don't, like Cristiano Ronaldo, who's one of the best football players in the world, doesn't go, hang on a minute, you can't tackle as well as I can dribble, so I'll tell you what, I'll just do it with my left foot. He doesn't do that, right? He plays to the best of his ability. So that's different. And if somebody declares their intent, I'm completely cool with it. But something like you said, him not getting his Cabalites out when his Venom exploded, they should be, for me. It didn't change anything. I just said, look, just stick him here. Don't move him though. Just put him down on the table. But then for him to make me roll it out, just I was like, okay, right, well, lesson learnt there. You're not obviously that type of person that I can have this with. Do you know what I mean? So, anyway, it's kind of by the by.
I tell you what. I tell you why this is an item. Why this is important. I agree with what you say. These conversations, these games occur in game one, more often than not. Because if you have got a decent army, you're a good player, you know it well, and you go up the rankings in the tournament, your game two, if you've won well in game one's usually right at the top. You might come down a little in game three if you lose that, because it can be a difficult game. Game four, game five, if you've won all the way through the difficult games, but your opponents are so generous and you're so generous back, it's about being the best general. It's not about being really picky, if that makes sense, about little rules, So, like you say, I imagine most of the top table, most of the last 8 at the LVO was total gentlemanly-like conduct, playing by intent.
And I will give an example of when we get to my game 3, you're going to hear exactly that.
Cool.
Now, okay, guys, I'm going to just summarize this in my experience, and I'm sure there'll be whoever's listening, no matter what stage of the game you're at. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with whatever stage you're at. That's your stage, and you just need to do you and get to that next stage. But here's some friendly advice. If you're thinking about going to a tournament, if you've never done one before, do not be put off by this conversation. And the reason being is, like Mark said, you'll be respected based on what you are, kind of earn. You'll be given the same respect that you're due and that you show others. And I think that's the important thing. Treat people how you would like to be treated. Now, what I've typically found is people that have done, if it's their first ever event, they're really chilled out. They're like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm just here for fun. I just want to learn about doing a competition. And if it's your first event, just go in with that mindset. Don't worry about winning anything. Just go in with that mindset and you'll have a good time, and you'll learn from experience. The people at the other end of the spectrum, like the top 8s, the top players in the world, the people that are currently in the top 100 rankings, they will, maybe excluding a couple, because there's always, a rotten apple, excluding a couple, these guys play with intent, they'll play clean, they'll play fair, and these are generally the people that are very outspoken about sportsmanship, that want to make change in the industry, that will help you, they'll even part coach you during the game. The reason being is because it doesn't matter, they'll still more than likely win that game, even if they coached you, okay? They will allow you to play with intent, and it's a game which is spoken through at all times, and you'll enjoy. If you ever get the chance to play one of the top players, you'll enjoy it the most, because you'll learn loads. You'll probably lose, but you'll learn lots, and you'll just really, really enjoy it, okay? And I'll give an example of that in my game 4, when I played Malik, okay, who's one of the England guys, top players. We had an incredible game, and I'll go on to that later, but it's unfortunately the in-between where sometimes you can have an issue. Somebody that's maybe done in a competition before that is probably doing a little bit better than they thought they would, or they have a chance at doing something that they might not thought, and maybe they haven't done enough competitions to get used to losing for that, because you need to build up a resilience to it, don't you, Mark? You need to build up that resilience to losing games.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's turn 2 and you go, this is over, I've lost, but I'm going to keep on playing for my opponent, and I'm going to keep on playing the best I can so he enjoys the game.
Yeah.
You just go, yeah, okay, mate, shake hands, and then you say, what could I have done better?
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And I think it's this middle kind of range sometimes where you get a little bit of this bickering. And hopefully by listening to this podcast and listening to our experiences, you can make the best judgment call at that table. And if you feel like you need to go get a TO, do not hesitate. Go get one. If you feel like you're unable to handle the situation because you're unaware of what to do, go get a TO. Those processes are starting to be in place. I had a great conversation with all the TOs John and Adam, and it's fantastic to meet those guys, and Danny and Thomas, and I shared a lot of commonalities with those guys. So the process of being put in place is something that I'm really passionate about improving, is this kind of sportsmanship. And hopefully there's people listening to this podcast that go, I see what Mark's saying and I see what Steve's saying, and hopefully I'll fit in somewhere in between. And that's what we want to give, is people, that element of good sportsmanship and playing cleanly by the rules. And if everyone does that, this community and this game is going to be incredible and an absolute joy to play. And it will get there. So we're just ironing out some kinks at the moment, slowly but surely. So anyway, that was game 1. Shall we move on to game 2?
Sure, I think we've been talking about game 1 for about an hour, so
yeah.
we've done it to death. But well worth speaking about, so I'd love to hear about your game 2.
Okay, game 2, I played against a guy called Daniel, and he had an Imperial Guard list. He had Bolgrins, 3 tank commanders, basilisks, loads of infantry. And I went first. We're playing Hammer and Anvil. So basically, game 1, I lost 26-27. So I lost by a point, which was also quite annoying, but still a very high score for a loss, which was good. So I'm up against somebody else now with a high score of a loss. So that's Daniel, and I can tell Daniel's a good player. His army's painted incredibly. He knows his army inside out, and me and him had the most incredible game. We had loads of back and forths. Unfortunately for him, I went first. I managed to get some early wraps off, and you never believe it, Mark, but luck was kind of in my favour. Turn 1.
We're talking dice.
Yeah.
It must be the spirit of Vegas entered you for 20 minutes.
I managed to get 2 wraps off with both of my Sanguinary Guard units. Sorry, a Death Company unit and a Sanguinary Guard unit. And he passed both of his morale tests with his guardsmen, because he wanted to fail them so he'd get out of the wrap.
Okay.
But he also spent 2 CPs to... This is the thing. On one unit, I was definitely going to get a wrap off. On the other unit, he spent 2 CPs, heroically intervened, which was the right thing to do, pushed bodies into my units, which meant all of my guys had to attack. And he just rolled, and I just, used my fists, so I didn't use my swords, which you can do, and which I talk a lot of in detail about on our mentorship program about how to do this stuff. But he rolled 6s for days on his saves. So even with all my attacks, he just rolled so many saves of 6s. So he was a bit annoyed about how many 6s he had rolled. And then when he came to do his morale, he rolled a 1. CP re-rolled into another 1, so I just had my next wrap off. And then in his turn 1, he failed his 7-inch charge, which is about slightly under a 50-50. I think there's like a 50-50-ish chance of that going off. So he failed his charge with the Bolgrin, which was quite big, really, because he might have killed 1 or 2 of me, Sanguinary Guard. But it wouldn't have, I don't think, changed the game too much, even if he did. And we spoke about it after, and he played as best as he possibly could, I think. And I said to him, look, you've been an absolute joy to play. And he asked me, did I make any mistakes? And I said, yeah, I think you did. I think you stretched your screen too wide so I can attack both ends of the spectrum. And once I can do that, your Bolgrin have to pick one side or the other. So I can pick which way they go. And whichever way they go, I'm just going to go the opposite. And that's what happened. So then in his turn 1, I picked up all the units that I was currently in combat with, and he charged in with other units, but wasn't enough to kill the Death Company and the Sanguinary Guard. And then my next 2 units of Sanguinary Guard came in with all the characters, and then basically cleaned up with wraps and traps and stuff. So that was a pretty big win for me. I think I scored 38 points in that game.
So he's already got Death Company and Sanguinary Guard up in his grill.
Yeah.
And then the next turn you go, he has 2 more horrible units of Sanguinary Guard.
And all the characters, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you know what? To be fair to him, he played it right to the bitter end. He dragged out the game as long as he could to score every single point possible, and credit to him. And I don't mean drag it out in a bad way. He was just like, I'm just doing this to score points. And that was the exact mentality he had. at no point did he think, right, I'm defeated, I'm just going to jack it. And he kept going all the way. And honestly, huge amount of respect for that opponent, because Daniel, if you listen to this, you're an absolute pleasure to play against, and I'd love to play you again sometime. So yeah, that was game 2.
Cool. So really good game 2.
Yeah. Then we had a slight issue with BCP. So we had a 3-hour delay. And we're then starting to play at 10:30, 11 p.m. at night, which was a bit relentless, to be honest. And
wow, I didn't realise it was that late. Obviously, I'm in the UK. I didn't go to the LVO, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I was looking on Facebook and follow Blood of Kittens. They were doing some live coverage, looking at their videos, and then they were talking about BCP issues. I was looking on BCP to see how you were getting on as well, and it wasn't working. It wouldn't refresh, and I just thought, the people that are trying to use it there, plus all the people around the world doing what I'm doing, probably crashed it. I should probably stop this now. I'm not helping. But I didn't realise it was going to take so long. Wow, that's horrendous.
Credit to the judges, they had to redo the draw manually.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and also a huge thanks to Reese and Frankie and Pablo and everyone else at the Frontline Gaming. It can be incredibly stressful running a huge event, let alone when something like this happens. And a huge credit to them. Reese was going around apologising, and it was, that you can see their hands were tied. They're doing everything they possibly could. So I just want to say a massive thank you to those guys for running what I thought was an incredible event. So yeah, it was absolutely brilliant, and I can't wait to go again. So I hate it when people just jump on the, oh well, there was a delay, and the LVO this or whatever, having a little moan. It's pointless. It doesn't help anything. So yeah.
I also saw today. So we're recording this podcast. Today is Wednesday, the 29th of January. There was a long apology from BCP. I read it on Facebook this morning, taking complete ownership of the issue and saying they were so sorry that they'd caused distress to anybody or spoiled people's games or caused them to be up late or get a roasting from the wife or anything like that, and it's rare you see companies really taking ownership of their issues. And I thought, obviously, it didn't disrupt my day, luckily, but it certainly did yours and many other people. And I thought it was commendable that they came out with a statement like that.
Yeah, and I would really like BCP to kind of do something about that so it doesn't happen again if they want to be, the leading company, so to speak, because there are other companies snapping at their heels. And you never want to be resting on your laurels, do you? So there's plenty of other companies out there that are, doing this kind of tournament organising thing, and I've had a couple of problems with BCP in the past, but on the whole, it runs a good program, and I would recommend most people use it. I think there's also like Down Under pairings, which I've used that before, and that's been great. So there are other companies out there, in whether it's pooling together resources and all that kind of stuff, I don't know, but anyway, that was that. So on to game 3. So I'm playing a guy called Daniel, and this is another Daniel that I played, and he's playing Eldar. And
where's this guy from?
America.
American, yeah.
Yeah.
And the previous Daniel was American as well, was it?
Yeah. And he's running Eldar, and I see in his list he's got Shining Spears, which I love, and he's got the Incarn. And
which you also love, yes.
Which I also love. And he said to me, I can heroically intervene. And I was like, you can what? Now, the ITC previously, as far as I'm aware, have not let you heroically intervene in the turn you pop up. So I was like, if I'd have known this, I'd have probably brought the Incarn. But anyway, because that's exactly what I did at the ETC. So I said to Daniel, I said, mate, I'm really sorry, I've got a really bad migraine, because I was exhausted at this point. And he was an absolute gentleman. And I can tell Daniel is an absolutely incredible player. He knows his army inside out. And this is somebody that is a top tier player. He's high in the rankings, so it was a pleasure to play him. And he went first. He said, look, I'll make this as quick as I can. Neither of us want to be here quick, so we both agreed to play super aggressive, basically, not play cagey. because we wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. He went first. My Sanguinary Guard tanked their saves from the Dark Reapers. But what was really interesting is I was like, this is my intention to do this. Do you agree? And he was like, well, if you do that, I'll do this. So just be aware of that. And he would ask me, can you heroically intervene here? And I was like, well, I can from here. And I got a strat and all this kind of stuff. So, it was one of those games where we spoke through everything, kind of coached each other on how to, do it. But we shared that same level of respect for one another, which was fantastic. And then his turn 2, he came in, and the Incarn came into combat with my Sanguinary, with the Sanguinor, should I say. And he did 11 damage to him in combat, because he's got the D6 weapon. I failed 3 saves. He put 11 wounds through, and then my 5-up Feel No Pain went bananas, and I saved, I think, 9 out of the 11 5-up in Feel No Pains.
That's very good.
And he was like, I think that's game. Because his entire, I've never rolled so many 5s, Mark. my models just wouldn't die. My banner was just unreal. And MVP to my banner boy, because he kept me in that, going second to the Eldar. And basically I then played out my turn, and I was already bonusing turn 1, and I ended up scoring maximum points, 42. Because I bonused every turn in, got to hold more, kill more, because I had control of the board. And when he failed to deliver the punch he wanted to with his characters, because that was the 3rd character that had whiffed, my retaliation would have been too much with 3 units of Sanguinary Guard and a unit of Death Company and all my characters, because we had like a hero mash right in the middle of the table. So, yeah.
Do you think that the game hinged on that moment? If it had gone his way, do you think it would have swung heavily in his favour?
Not at that moment, no, because too many other variables had already gone my way.
Okay.
Him not killing the Sanguinor, I think, was the nail in his own coffin. He was just like, Steve, I'm going to cry if this carries on. So, and it was so late, like, neither of us wanted to play it out. Do you know what I mean? Like, right to the bitter end, because we don't want to be there till 1 a.m. I've got, Amy was waiting back for me. He was tired, and the refs did give us the opportunity to play early in the morning, but neither of us wanted to do that either. So, quick game's a good game, so to speak.
Sure. So, question there at the beginning, you talked about the Incarn being able to heroically intervene.
Yeah.
Was he correct on that? Have the rules changed now for ITC?
To be fair, I took him on his word, so I didn't actually ask the judge.
Fair enough.
But I took him on his word, and so I don't know. But he's someone that I would respect, and someone that if he says they've said yes, then I would believe him. So, and I wasn't going to go and ask a TO and all that kind of stuff. I knew it wouldn't make too much difference to me anyway. Sure. It doesn't make too much difference to me because I don't shoot anything.
Right.
And I don't mind if he heroically intervenes into my units. Because if he's in combat with me, I'm also in combat with him.
Yeah.
And I punch just as hard, so it makes little difference to me. So it wasn't worth arguing or bickering about, do you know what I mean? Or even asking a TO, because it makes no difference. Sure. Yes, that was game 3, but that was like I say, a stark contrast to somebody there who's like, look, let's get this done. I can tell that, like I said, he was a pleasure to play against. So that was another big win for me, 42 points. Yeah, so then game 4, the day 2, I'm up against a guy called Mike, who I've already played before at SoCal Open, and we drew before, as in we drew the game, and we had a Go on.
So, it's Saturday now, I take it.
Yeah.
Is there a late start? Because I heard that they were offering some people to come back and play at 7 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
Only a little bit, only like 20 minutes or something.
Oh, right, okay, so hardly anything then.
Yeah. So me and Mike played at SoCal Open. We had a really nice game, and I already knew this was going to be another great game. He had his Iron Hands, and I couldn't wait to take revenge on the Iron Hands. I'd been waiting to play Iron Hands all weekend, because I built my list to kill Iron Hands. And I thought, right, now's my moment to show what I can do. And I can't remember if I went first. No, I did go first. Not that it made too much difference in this game, but I did go first. Death Company go in, blew up his I basically sacrificed them. They went flying in, picked up his, and I made a mistake. I declared against his dreadnought, and I shouldn't have because he killed a few in Overwatch. But picked up his plane, and that was basically I traded a plane for the Sanguinary Guard. And then in his turn 2, everything was hidden. I did a really good job at hiding everything, so he didn't really shoot much apart from the Death Company. Turn 3, he's got 2 units of Sanguinary Guard in his face, wrapping and trapping Eliminators and stuff, tagging Dreadnoughts. I wrapped his Derridero and kept that wrapped up for 4 turns, with my characters just bopping around. But he exploded his... this is the other thing in game 1. His Raider exploded and killed 3 of my characters.
Wow.
Oh, it was mental. That was game changing game 1. I couldn't believe it. And that was the second vehicle that he had explode. So I was just like, oh, you really joking me? And that was big in game 1. But in this game, his Executioner, he auto exploded that for a CP. And that killed one of my characters. It also killed the unit that I had currently just wrapped, because I got a really good wrap off. Sanguinary Guard went into the tank, killed that, and then I wrapped an Intercessor because all of their attacks can now go on the tank. So I wrapped up the Intercessor, and then he blew up his thing and did enough mortal wounds to kill off his own unit.
So what unit did he auto-explode?
His Repulsor.
Was it an Executioner or just a regular Repulsor?
Executioner. He had 2.
I didn't know you could do that.
You can, mate, yeah.
I take it it's a Space Marine stratagem, not an Iron Hand stratagem.
Yeah, Space Marine one, yeah.
I thought it was like an Ultramarine stratagem or something like that. I must be wrong, because the guy, obviously, he's a good guy, knows his rules. But that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I run one of those, so...
Keep it in your pocket, yeah.
Indeed.
So, but I had everything wrapped up nice and tight. His Executioner had nothing to shoot at. Yeah, it was... I think he forgot to shoot his Repulsor one time, and I let him go back and shoot it. We just had one of those really nice games. I forgot to put the clock over to him at one point, and he was like, "Don't worry, Steve, have my next movement phase," because he did his movement phase in my turn on my time. And we had a really chilled out, nice game. Absolute pleasure to play Mike, it really is, and hopefully I look forward to playing him again in the future. But he did say to me, he goes, "Steve, I'd like to bring your Ultramarines next time. I don't like this Blood Angel list."
I'm sure.
So yeah, that was good. It was nice to see finally what my list was bred to do, it in action on game day, and it executed so well against a very competent player. So it was good to see what the list can do when it's in exactly what it was bred to do. So yeah, it was good.
So what was he running? A brigade? Did he have a fly or anything like that? He had land speeders or suppressors or anything like that?
Yeah, so he had 1 Storm Talon.
Okay.
Sorry, 1 Storm Hawk. He had 2 Executioners. He had a Derridero Dreadnought with the obviously Invuln shield. He had a Apothecary, Lieutenant, Captain. He had 3 units of Eliminators, and then 3 units of Intercessors. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I say that because I put into my Iron Hands list units with fly so that I could screen with them, so I didn't get wrapped. So if you killed them, and you in particular, or any melee army was stood there in the middle of the board, able for me to shoot them. And if you didn't kill them, I could fly off and away. And I think that Iron Hands are pretty vulnerable to being wrapped if you've got a lot of intercessors and you've got a melee army that have got the tools to be able to charge, a reduced amount of charge.
Yeah, so he could have screened with his so he was screening with his flyer in deployment. Yeah. So I had to get rid of that because I knew if I get rid of that, he's gonna have a trouble screening me out. So I got rid of the flyer, just sacrificed a Death Company to do that. And I don't mind sacrificing the 1 unit because it's my Sangers that will do the damage. So then he could have screened with his repulsors, but the problem is if I get in combat with the thing, I'm gonna blow it up. So I can easily make 2 charges and kill both repulsors, and all he's got left is 10 intercessors, some characters, and a dreadnought. Ain't gonna do anything. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Even if you killed a unit of Sanguinary Guard, the other units and all the characters are just gonna go chompy. So yeah, they're fine. But anyway, so Mike played it well. It's just a bad matchup for him. Then game 5, I'm drew against Malik from England. Me and Malik have never actually played before. This was the first time, although we're good friends. And Malik had a disgusting list, which is Imperial Fists. He had 5 planes, and he had 2 Scorpius indirect tanks. He had a Whirlwind and 3 Thunderfire cannons. And a Smash Captain, basically.
Interesting list.
So everything shoots indirectly. Everything, or like most of the stuff, can fire twice naturally. It all ignores cover. And he went first. And turn 1, I made a mistake.
Okay.
I made a mistake in deployment, which cost me massively. I actually made 2 mistakes in this game, both of which made the game a lot more one-sided to Malik than it could have been. I think I lose this game, and me and Malik spoke it through at length at other ways I could have done different things, and I just would have been delaying the inevitable. Okay? But ultimately I made 2 mistakes. One in deployment. I should have just put 1 Sanguinary Guard ahead of my unit, because he was able to kill. He flew over and used all of his tanks, which I didn't expect him to do. He flew over and managed to kill all of my Death Company with his tanks. Now, unfortunately for me, there was no magic boxes on this table. And I, as we spoke before, I was on one of the top 100 tables by this point, and I only played in a magic box once. And although I'd obviously geared my list around them based on the terrain at SoCal, and on a lot of the tables there was still a magic box or 2 kicking about, but I unfortunately managed to dodge them all. And if there was a magic box in game 1, that would have been a landslide to me. So yeah, that would have been a huge one, different change. But in this one, a magic box would have certainly helped, because he wouldn't have been able to use his planes effectively. And that meant I would have had my Death Company and my Sanguinary Guard alive, because in turn 1 he kills all of the Death Company, and then he managed to get the closest model was then a character, because I normally play aggressive with them, put them at the front, and he was then able to kill 2 of my characters with his indirect stuff, which was a huge deployment mistake. So yeah, that was pretty big. But then my turn 1, I picked up 4 planes with 3 characters. So that was a good retaliation, and I just really then struggled to do much else, to be honest.
Did you manage to get into the indirect fire?
I did, but not enough to really do anything.
I see. How did he manage to stop you from, putting a lot of damage into it? Did he manage to screen you out pretty well?
Well, he'd already killed the Death Company, and
Right.
he'd already killed a unit Sanguinary Guard.
Okay.
So I've only got 2 units left. Yeah. Then, and obviously he already killed 3 of my characters by this point, because also now I've got no screen left. So, because he was picking up scouts and incursors easily, right? So I've literally got a few characters at the back of the board, and there was a turn where he could pick up my Smash Captain, and because another plane exploded and literally killed my Smash Captain, and he was then able to target them as well. So I didn't have any screen. I lost more characters in his next turn, right? So I'm pretty much, the only characters I've got left are my 2 ancients with the banners. They don't do anything. Everyone else was dead, and I've got 2 units of Sanguinary Guard left. I came down, played well, used a wrap with this on the servitors. And again with Malik, like he said to me, it got to the end of his shooting phase, and he said, "Oh, Steve, I forgot to move my servitors. Do you mind?" And I said, "Mate, you carry on. Like, it doesn't." I could have just said no to be annoying, and it would have meant that I could have, in my turn, spent 2 CPs, moved over, charged, and blew up a tank in Raptor. Do you know what I mean? I would have felt I don't know. Like, again, I could have penalised him for not moving it, but I let him move and advance his servitors to put his screen up. Although I know that goes against me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very sporting of you.
But I got a good wrap off turn 2, and this was my mistake. I then went for another wrap with the other unit of servitors, because I failed the charge I wanted to. and didn't quite get enough to wrap a tank. And then because he could then fall back with all of his tanks, the Thunderfires alone were able to pick up all the Sanguinary Guard that weren't in combat, and then the captain came over with all the characters and then charged my other unit that had just made the wrap, and that's where I made my mistake. I should just went all on one tank and just guaranteed that wrap in charge. And his characters wouldn't have been able to get over to me for combat, and that was my other second mistake. So those two I don't think I win the game, but certainly would have helped. Do you know what I mean? If I'd have defended a bit better, maybe I'd have a bit more of a chance, but going first, it would have been a completely different game because I can move the Death Company forward, pick up 3 planes turn 1, and maybe get a wrap on or something on those servitors or whatever. So and just massively put the pressure on him.
Yeah, and then you don't lose the characters that you actually lost.
Exactly. Yeah,
because he's got less firepower on the board because you've taken out 3 planes.
And everything could have tucked in cover a lot more to hide from the planes. It'd have been a different game altogether. Yeah. So that was game 5 against Malik, and then game 6, I'm up against a guy called Gareth who had a really cool, funky list. It was all painted gold, like the Minotaurs. But he had 3 different detachments. He had a White Scars detachment with Smash Captains. He had Imperial Fists with 2 Whirlwinds and 3 Thunderfires, and he then had a Raven Guard detachment with a unit of 5 Assault Cents, a unit of 3 Assault Cents, and a unit of 3 or 4 Assault Cents. So it was Raven Guard, Imperial Fist, and White Scars.
Cool.
And in this game, me and Gareth, we had a really close game, really, really close game. And I said to Gareth at the end, it was one of the closest games of 40k I've ever played, technically. We had so many like little back and forths, like, oh, I don't think you're within that inch, I don't think you're within that 3, or I don't know if you can draw a line of sight. But every single time we did it fairly. And it was really nice because the game was so close and it was so technical when you've got 2 combat-based armies. We had a bit of a disagreement in regards to terrain. We resolved it, and like he was under the impression that the bottom levels of the ruins, there was a huge archway in one of them, and he was under the impression that wasn't technically blocked, whereas I was. And he said to me, bear in mind I can shoot you through that arch. And I said, no, bottom level's blocked. And I could tell that he genuinely thought that. So we got a TO and they ruled it that it was blocked. But I let him redeploy his unit based on that, because I can redeploy my Death Company, he can redeploy his Raven Guard Assault Sense. And I said to him, look, if you didn't know, I don't want a gotcha moment, so I'm going to let you, and I said, where would you have put them anyway if you knew that was the case? And I let him redeploy. Because again, I don't want a moment where he misunderstood something, and do you know what I mean? And we had a really nice game like that. So there was a point where like I declared my intent in all those certain things, and it was a really close game, and I only just won that by a couple of points at the very end, but I just had to do my best to screen out the entire board, so the only time he could bring reinforcements on were from his own deployment zone. But luckily I'd accrued enough points early on, secured my lead, then retreated and defended, just wrapped the units up, so I secured the win. But it was a fantastic game, really, really technical, in a top-level game to watch, I would have thought.
Very good.
So, yeah, it was good. So I ended on 4-2. I ended on 189 battle points, which is massive score, which put me in 92nd place. And I finished the entire season off in 78th place. So really, really happy with my result at the event, and also my standing for my first competitive season on the ITC. So yeah, top 100, made it both in the LVO and the main leaderboard of the season, and I'm chuffed to bits.
Fantastic, buddy. Well done. So you were 78th best player in the ITC in the world.
Yeah.
And without, I say this tongue-in-cheek, without really trying. And I say that because you've not gone to a lot of events, ITC events, over the past 12 months. 12 months ago, you didn't set your stall out and say, Mark, really, I'm looking to boss the ITC this year. I'm going to go to every ITC tournament I get my hands on.
Yeah.
I think you only went to a handful, so it'd be interesting to see what you can do next year if you target the ITC as your area for improvement.
Yeah, I think I did like 8 events,
No, I did quite a few then actually.
but a few of those were RTTs.
I see. Okay.
And obviously, my biggest event where I did the best was Battlefield Birmingham. That score wasn't counted, unfortunately, which was an event I went to, did the energy time and did well, but obviously not rewarded for the points. So that would have been another 250 points, which would have actually, I worked out, put me in about 50th place.
Okay, that's good.
And I think I finished with the Adeptus Astartes faction. Where did I come in that? I think I posted it in our group.
50th around there, 50 somethings.
Was it something like that? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Oh no, that was Blood Angels.
Oh,
with,
okay.
With
Right.
my one event, I came 18th.
Oh, okay, yeah, much better then.
So
So that was really good.
So that includes all the Marine players in the world. So 18th, yeah, not bad. But does like that. So yeah, but I think now going forward, I'm going to be playing. I'm going to stick with the Blood Angels. Mark, I tell you what, mate, this is one of the most enjoyable armies I've ever used, and I think I'm going to aim for next year best in faction with the Blood Angels.
I don't believe you. No, I do believe you. But let's see what happens in 6 months.
Yeah.
You believe this now, but I think something else will come along in about 3 or 4 months' time, and like something shiny and new, and you'll go, "Oh, this looks interesting." I think if you were offered a beautiful Grey Knights army, for a cheap price, I think you'd snap it up and then maybe start to use them.
Yeah, I do like my Grey Knights, and don't get me wrong, those rules are pretty tempting. But I really enjoyed the Blood Angels, so I'm definitely going to do 4 events with the Blood Angels, because that's all you need to get best in faction. So I
Just
think,
four first places.
yeah, just first place 4 events. I jest, obviously, but
No
yeah,
problem.
I'll
Yeah.
definitely put 4 events in with the Blood Angels. Probably my next 4, stick with them for the first part of the season and get a good scoreboard, hopefully. And the next event I'm going to, which I'm actually going to be a player ref, so I can actually help make these changes in terms of sportsmanship, is going to be the Bournemouth Beachhead on the 8th and 9th of February. And if you're interested in this event, there is still tickets available. It's in the UK. It's a 6-round event. I think this is one of the first ever 6-round events in the UK. It's certainly the first one of the season anyway. There's over 100 people attending. The terrain's brilliant. I've already seen it. I've already played an RTT with it and it's great. Down in the beautiful part of the southern England and south coast. So if you would like to go, I'm going to put all of the details. There is a Facebook page, so you can search for that, or you can head over to our blog page where all of our podcasts are, which is www.vanguardtactics.com/blog/EP4. So that's /EP4, and you can find all the details to that event. So if you're not doing anything, not this weekend but next weekend after, sign up, get your place, and come and say hello and play some ITC.
Sounds like a great event.
Yeah, should be good, mate. Should be really good.
So
what's next for you?
What's next for you, Steve? That's most important. So are you going to go to the ETC, do you think, this year? I know that there's been a big change because 40k is withdrawn from the ETC, and they're going to rename it the Warhammer World Championships. I don't know what that's going to look like, whether it's going to be individual or team still.
Well, I've actually got the exclusive scoop on it, Mark.
Oh, wow. Okay. Everybody wants to hear this, including myself.
And I'm going to save it for next week's show because
leaving everybody hanging.
I'm actually going to be joined by Tom Adriani and also Neil Kerr, who are basically the chairmans and organisers, and hopefully Ishuk as well, the organisers of the previous 40k ETC, and will be leading the way with this new venture, which I'm extremely excited about. I am in full support of this decision to leave the ETC. I'll be honest, personally, I didn't like the politics when I was involved with it, and I'm really glad to see that 40k is taking its own separate road, and something that I verbalized, I think 6 months in that captain group. Like, I think, to be honest, you should ditch them, because it can only get better if one team, one person, or one group of people is going to be responsible for the growth, rather than constantly swapping it around like the ETC does. So this has so much potential, and these guys are going to come on the podcast, and I'm going to interview these lot about what the crack is going to be happening. So that's going to be coming up next for you guys. But so I won't be attending the ETC as it stands. I don't know if I'll make the England team this year. I'm not sure. I'm not going to Belgium, which is the qualifying event, or just like a kind of warm-up event, which I went to last year, because it was so close to the LVO, and I didn't want to commit to doing the LVO and a trip to Belgium within the space of 2 weeks. I couldn't justify it, financially, time, business-wise. So yeah, I'm not going to Belgium. So I wish all the guys who are going to the Belgium, who are playing in that format competition, the best of luck, who are going from England. I think there's 4 England teams. The standard of the England squad is so high. If I get picked, it will be a miracle. And if I don't, then I'll still wish absolutely everyone the best of luck and support them in any way I possibly can, because they're a really, really good bunch of guys anyway. So what's next for me is this 6-man event in Bournemouth, and then I'm sure I'm doing plenty of others. Hopefully I'll do SoCal again, do LVO again, hopefully the American Team Championships, more to come on that news, and then also some other big events, maybe Slaughterfest in the US as well. So don't be surprised if you see me 3 or 4 times in the United States this next coming season.
Sounds like you've got a fun-packed year.
Yeah.
With plenty going on. And then I take it LVO again next year. You've got the bug now?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Yeah, definitely. 100%. So what about you, Mark? What have you got coming up next?
I am this weekend at the Warhammer World Heat 1 GT.
Nice.
100-man book mission tournament. So the All Eternal War, I believe. There's 5 games, and we're going to play 5 out of the 6 missions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking Iron Hands this weekend. I'm getting a bit bored of them a little bit, I'll be honest with you.
Yep.
I think that there's a bit of resentment against Iron Hands, and
yep.
I'm not enjoying that, I'll be honest with you.
Yep.
They're not that high of a skill level.
Nope.
I think that they are better in ITC. They are in ETC style because they struggle with mobility.
Yeah.
So, better players than me, though, will tell you otherwise. Like Dan Bates won the GT final with them. He's a much better player than I am. But at my grade, if you like, it's been a bit of a struggle to get board presence with that army. So I think I'll move on soon enough after this. I'd like a challenge, and I'd like to... I was talking to a friend of mine the other night, and he was saying, you are playing a league, and there's the League version 2 coming up soon, and he was saying, so you're going to take Space Marines to that league? I said, maybe, but it might be Space Wolves. And he said, why? Why don't you take the most brutal thing you can? I said, because I want to win with finesse.
Yeah.
I want a challenge. I want it to be an interesting game. I want it to be close. And I'm hoping that the Psychic Awakening brings some special gifts for the Space Wolves. I'd love to be terrorising people with Wolfen in the tournaments I've got coming up. We'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, mate, sounds good. I mean, that's exactly what I get from the Blood Angels. So, plus, it's real easy to pack, mate. Win-win. Yeah. And everyone loves Blood Angels. I was like, everyone's like hobby hero. It was like, yeah, you're taking Blood Angels. Wow, that's amazing. I was like, yeah, no. Look how shredded my golden boys are. Yeah.
I think the triad of Dark Angels, Blood Angels, and Space Wolves, the non-Codex compliant chapters, are well loved by many.
Yeah, and also Death Watch. I had a lot of people love the Death Watch. So, Grey Knights, I think, used to be hated royally, but in previous editions I don't know about. But I think that there's a soft spot for those people as well. So, it's exciting times. GW with their new psychic release of the Dark Angels and also the Grey Knights. We're going to be also joined by the #1 Grey Knight player in the world, Mark, Aaron. So myself and Mark will be interviewing Aaron at some point to give you his scoop on the Grey Knights with their new rules. I thought, who better to get on than the number one player in the world? So we're going to be joined by him, and I've also got some other guests lined up to come onto the show if I can hopefully persuade them to, who I met at the LVO. So should be good. Got exciting times ahead. So thank you to everyone that has subscribed so far, by the way. Thanks to everyone that left us a review on iTunes. It really, really means a lot. We did get one extremely bad review, I'll be honest. It did make me chuckle, especially as it mentioned you, Mark. But yeah, so please don't leave us a review like that, but go ahead over there and give it a read. I'm sure you guys have a chuckle yourself as well.
Yeah, and we're not making fun of the guy. His opinion is his opinion. He did say he'd give us a couple of episodes. I think that his point was that we came across as power gamers and we were taking the most broken factions ever. But as you can see from Steve's trip to the LVO, he's taken Blood Angels, taking a real chance on the Blood Angels. And I poked fun at you last time as to say, he's really taking them? Why not you take Imperial Fists or Iron Hands or something like that? And I was saying to you, it was a great choice. You've obviously enjoyed them. I'm looking at, like I say, removing myself from Iron Hands because I don't want to be the player that takes the broken list. I was enjoying them a bit, but I'm starting to, bore of them now. And I think that Ben is taken all sorts of different armies, but Eldar, Craftworld Eldar that the Ben's play at the minute are far from broken, and they're quite high skill level to get a good result with them. And considering that the guy went 5-0 at the Warhammer World GT with it, that's something special. So I hope that the gentleman in question rescinds that response to the first podcast and comes back to say, fair enough, guys, you've changed my mind.
But until that happens, guys, go check it out. It is quite humorous. So, if you do leave us a review, preferably not like that one, and hopefully like all the others that have been put in. So thank you so much for everyone that has subscribed and left us a review, who share it with our network. It's been incredible. We've had like 4,000 downloads already, and every single episode is going up and up and up. So I can't thank you all enough. And there will be more to come on, like I said, is the bonus episode, which will be all about the kind of changing of this 40k World Cup with the organisers. That'll be a bonus episode, which you're only going to get access to if you are a subscriber of the show, whether it's on Spotify, Google Play, or iTunes. So anyway, Mark, thanks for your time, mate, and best of luck at the weekend. I'm sure we'll chat before, and if you need any help, mate, please do let me know. And once again, huge shout out to everyone at the Frontline Gaming crew, Frankie, Reese, Pablo, everyone else. Also, the guys at 40k Stat Center, Val, Pete, the Falcon, Paul Murphy, Anthony. You guys did an absolutely fantastic job at just basically going around, getting the inside scoop at the LVO. And, if you don't listen to 40k Stats, go check them out. They're a fantastic podcast. And same for the guys at the Frontline Gaming crew. So well done to everyone involved. And a huge congratulations to Richard Siegler, who won. Hopefully he'll be coming on the show soon as well, and we can chat a little bit more about that. His thoughts between moving from Tau to Iron Hands, all that good stuff. The reason why he did it, and ultimately his strategy that he put in place to win the LVO. So all that to come, guys. And also a huge well done to all of the Vanguard Tactics team that put a huge performance in this year. And next year, or next season, should I say, let's take it up a step. So anyway, take care, and we'll see you all soon.